Theo, where are you? It's already started. When I said that, Theo on the other end of the phone said something unbelievable. What? Where am I? I'm on vacation in Hawaii with Mom. I was so shocked that I couldn't understand what Theo was saying. If Dad had come today, I was gonna delete everything, Kinsley said, giving a sad smile. You can insult and look down on me all you want. But I wanted you to at least consider Kinsley. Theo, you're no longer my husband or Kinsley's father. You don't need to come back from Hawaii. I'll never forgive you. My name is Maria, a 42-year-old housewife. I live with my husband Theo and our daughter Kinsley. I met Theo 15 years ago at a party a friend organized. At that time, I was shy and not used to mixers, so I remember sitting quietly at the edge of the table, not knowing how to act. It was Theo who saw me and kindly started talking to me. Are you drinking? It was a casual remark, but for a shy person like me, it was much appreciated. Even if I didn't talk much, Theo kept the conversation lively. Theo, who graduated from a prestigious university, was quick-witted and had a humor that kept the conversation interesting. Everyone at the mixer was drawn to Theo's witty conversation. Thanks to Theo, my anxiety from attending my first mixer was completely eased. After that, the organizer had everyone exchange contact information, and the party ended. Some friends ended up dating after exchanging contacts, but I didn't keep in touch with anyone. One day, after I had completely forgotten about the party, I received an email from an unknown number. It was Theo. Do you remember me? I want to see you. I couldn't believe it and checked the sender multiple times. Because it had been a year since that party. But when I saw the message, I felt my heart skip a beat. Is this Theo? I remember. Thanks for that time. I sent the message and a reply came immediately. I'm glad you didn't forget. Can we meet up? Though it was a sudden invitation, I immediately said yes and had a one-on-one reunion with Theo. This led to us starting to date. Theo was a bit pushy, but for someone like me with very little dating experience, everything felt fresh. After a little over a year of dating, we got married. The year after our marriage, I found out I was pregnant. Theo was very happy about the pregnancy. We hadn't talked about having children until then. So when I found out I was pregnant, I was honestly filled with anxiety. But when Theo said, "Maria, you did great," and was genuinely happy, I was relieved. However, that relief eventually turned to dust. I regret not paying attention to the anxiety I first felt. During the early stages of my pregnancy, I had severe morning sickness and couldn't move around as I wanted to every day. When Theo came home from work and saw me lying on the couch, he said, "Wow, slacking off again?" That's the worst, and headed to his room without any concern. At first, I was surprised, but after hearing it many times, I got used to it. I've heard rumors about husbands who become cold when their wives get pregnant, but Theo wasn't like that. He was always that kind of person. He was apparently pampered by his mother and always put himself first. That day, Theo left me, suffering from morning sickness, at home and went to his parents' house alone for dinner. On such occasions, he wouldn't come home at night and would go to work from his parents' house the next day. Theo's parents' house is about a 10-minute drive from here. He could have come back, but he never did. Theo's excuse was, being in the same room with someone who's about to puke is too disgusting. Was his joy about my pregnancy a lie? While thinking that, I fought morning sickness alone and finally reached the last month of my pregnancy. You're due next month, right? So, I'm gonna take paternity leave starting next month too. Until then, Theo hadn't gone to the hospital with me or helped think of a name. But now, he was saying he'd take paternity leave for the birth. Thank you, Theo. That's helpful. Let's work hard on raising our child together. When I expressed my gratitude, Theo looked puzzled and calmly said, "Huh? What are you talking about? You're on your own for raising the kid. I'm just taking paternity leave as my right. I never said I'd be involved in childcare." I didn't understand what Theo meant. Isn't paternity leave for raising children? So, I'm just exercising my right. This kind of chance doesn't come often, right? I get to take a long break from work while getting money from unemployment insurance. That's why I was so happy when I found out you were pregnant. I've been looking forward to this. I'm planning a trip abroad with Mom during this break. I was speechless. Theo wasn't happy about the pregnancy itself. I faced childbirth with a stunned feeling. A girl, of all things? Those were Theo's first words upon seeing our child. It was a 6-pound baby girl. Because I couldn't eat much during pregnancy, she was born a bit small. It was a moment when I realized the saying "you'd give your life for them" was true. When I found out it was a girl, I decided on the name Kinsley by myself. When labor started, Theo wasn't at home. He was probably at his parents' house. I held my aching belly, prepared for the hospital alone, and took a taxi there. And I gave birth without anyone by my side. My parents rushed over immediately, but they were surprised Theo wasn't there. Theo first met Kinsley when I returned home after being discharged. The first thing he said was, "If anything, you should have had a boy. A girl is a disadvantage. You're a failure as a parent, and left without holding our daughter." These are words I never wanted to hear from Theo, who didn't help during the pregnancy and wasn't even there for the delivery. Moreover, there was no appreciation for the childbirth and no love for our child. The anxiety I felt when I first found out I was pregnant turned out to be real. Of course, I thought about getting a divorce, but I felt sorry for Kinsley growing up without a father, so I couldn't make the decision. After that, Theo really did take his mother on an overseas trip, and he never once took care of our child during his paternity leave. From then on, it was just me raising Kinsley by myself. Theo started going straight to his parents' house after work more often. The reason being Kinsley's loud crying at night. I come home tired, and if she's crying all night, I can't stand it. Make sure she doesn't cry. You stay up and take care of her. Do all men say things like this? I'm the one who gave birth, but Theo is also a parent, so I wished he would show some interest. Is it selfish of me to think that way? When I was really struggling physically, my mother would sometimes come to help. However, my mother-in-law never came to see Kinsley, not even once. I didn't expect her to help with childcare, but why didn't she even come to see her granddaughter? I found it strange until Theo told me the shocking truth. Huh? Mom doesn't know a child was born. I didn't tell her. Because it's embarrassing to have a daughter, right? I was utterly appalled by his sexist thinking. He even warned me, don't ever bring her to my parents' house. Still, I held on to a faint hope that Theo's attitude might change as Kinsley grew. However, even when Kinsley turned 2, then 3, Theo never acted like a father. But when Kinsley was about to start elementary school, Theo suddenly began interfering in her upbringing. Don't raise her to be stupid. It's embarrassing for me. The world is tough on women, so unless she's as brilliant as my mom, I won't acknowledge her. He was probably comparing her to his co-workers' children. Theo was truly a vain and prideful man. Even though Kinsley was only 6, she recognized Theo as her father and tried to meet his expectations. I saw her sitting at her desk studying every day since first grade. As she moved up in grades, the time she spent studying seemed to increase. By the time she was in 4th grade, Theo started paying close attention to her test results. Hey, it's unacceptable that 3 out of 5 subjects are in the 90s. You're not trying hard enough, that's why you can't get 100. This is your negligence. Review your mistakes 100 times and don't slack off. With Maria's blood in you, you're destined to be an idiot, so work like your life depends on it. Theo said this and showered Kinsley with harsh words after every test. Kinsley would just say, okay, and go back to her desk for hours. Even when I told her, you don't have to push yourself, Kinsley would reply, thanks, Mom. I love studying, so it's okay. I'll get all 100s next time, and continue studying. She must have seen Theo yelling at me since she was little. She probably thought that if she worked hard, Theo wouldn't get mad at me. Kinsley, I'm sorry. I felt guilty for making Kinsley suffer because of me. Even thinking that, I felt ashamed of myself for not being able to go through with the divorce. At that time, I was a stay-at-home mom and had to rely on Theo's income to live. Feeling that I had to do something, I began serious preparations to become independent. In support of my efforts, Kinsley started to excel in various areas. She began to achieve the top grades in her class and frequently set records in sports. She also received awards in the arts, constantly challenging herself and producing results. Around that time, Theo finally decided to introduce Kinsley to his mother. He must have thought it was no longer embarrassing. When his mother was told, "Actually, I have a child," she wasn't particularly surprised. In fact, the first thing she said upon meeting Kinsley was, "What, a girl? She's ugly just like Maria." I thought the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I wanted to comfort Kinsley, thinking she was hurt, but she just smiled and said, "If I look like Mom, I'm okay with that." After Theo's mother left, I hugged Kinsley tightly. I need to become independent soon, for this child's sake, I decided firmly in my heart. Now, Kinsley is in 6th grade. I started working by helping at my father's company and am now in charge of a department. My father's long-established company was weak in efficient online operations. I built a new system and made it usable for the company. I was really glad I went to an IT university. Kinsley also continued to work hard, spending several hours at her desk every day after coming home from tutoring, consistently maintaining top grades. When she didn't score 100, she would review her mistakes 100 times as Theo had told her. By then, Theo was rarely home, but when he did come back, Kinsley would immediately give him an update. When Kinsley showed him a perfect score, he'd just say, "This is expected," and dismiss her. Even so, Kinsley seemed satisfied. She probably never expected praise in the first place. Her goal was simply not to be scolded. Despite this, I still wished Theo would say even one word of praise for Kinsley, who worked hard every day as he demanded. For Kinsley's last birthday in elementary school, the two of us celebrated together. We had already had a meal and celebration with my parents the previous weekend. On her actual birthday, Theo didn't show up. He probably didn't even know it was her birthday. Neither Kinsley nor I expected anything from Theo and enjoyed the birthday party by ourselves. "I love your homemade cooking, Mom. It's more than enough." "Thank you for the best birthday," Kinsley said with a happy smile. Then she said, "Dad wants me to do well in my studies. So, I'll work hard in both academics and sports. I want Dad to see me give the graduation speech." At Kinsley's school, the top student of the year gives the graduation speech on behalf of the students. It was an aspiration for the children and a proud moment for the parents. I think Kinsley wanted to show Theo, who always belittled us because we were women, that she could excel and prove him wrong. At the same time, this was Kinsley's way of expressing her love for Theo. I wanted to support Kinsley wholeheartedly as she tried to become the person her father wanted her to be. Kinsley's hard work paid off, and it was decided that she would give the graduation speech as the representative of her class on a winter day at the start of the new year. In the report card handed out at the end of the term before winter break, Kinsley received the highest marks in all subjects, straight A's. This was the deciding factor in her being chosen as the representative for that year. Kinsley immediately reported the news to Theo when he occasionally came home. As usual, Theo dismissed her with, "If you're my child, this is expected. Dad, you have to come to the graduation ceremony. I want you to see how hard I've worked." For the first time in 12 years, Kinsley, who had always listened to Theo's demands without expressing her own wishes, made a request to him. Even Theo responded with a smile, "Yeah, I'll definitely come. Don't mess up the speech." Kinsley smiled happily, and I felt relieved. Every day after that, Kinsley worked on her speech and practiced it. She wanted to memorize it completely. "Because it's a graduation speech. I want to look at the students and teachers while I read it. That was Kinsley's determination. She had such a mature mindset that it was hard to believe she was my daughter. As much as I hated to admit it, she inherited this potential from Theo. At least she didn't inherit his personality. 2 days before the graduation ceremony, I called Theo, who hadn't been home. Theo said he had taken paid leave from work for his daughter's graduation ceremony. Theo, the graduation is the day after tomorrow. Are you sure you'll make it? I could hear a lot of noise on the other end of the line. Oh, the graduation? Don't worry, I'll be there. I'm a bit busy right now, so I'll go straight to the school, he said before hanging up. From the day before the graduation, I couldn't reach him by phone. Seeing my anxiety, Kinsley reassured me, Mom, it's okay. Let's trust Dad, okay? Although Kinsley must have been more anxious, here she was, a little girl comforting her unreliable mother. Since it was the day before the ceremony, we went to bed early. As the time approached for her big moment, I spoke to Kinsley. Good luck with the speech. Relax, relax. Mom, you're more nervous than I am. It's okay. If I do it like always, it'll go well, Kinsley said as she headed to her classroom. I looked around but didn't see any sign of Theo. Thinking there was still some time, I headed to the gymnasium where the ceremony would take place. I saved a seat for Theo just in case and sat down to wait. However, even as the opening remarks began, Theo didn't show up. I stepped out of the gym and called him. After a few rings, he picked up. Theo, where are you? It's already started. When I said that, Theo said something unbelievable. What? Where am I? Haha, Hawaii. I'm on vacation in Hawaii with Mom. The ocean is amazing. I was so shocked I couldn't understand what Theo was saying. Hawaii? The ocean? During Kinsley's graduation? Anger slowly built up inside me. I'm not going to some graduation. Bye. I'm having fun, so don't call me again. He hung up. Clutching the phone, I returned to the ceremony. I sat back down and watched as the diplomas were handed out. I was able to see Kinsley proudly receive her certificate. After the underclassmen's farewell address, it was finally Kinsley's turn to give her speech. Kinsley ascended the stage. Her poised and beautiful demeanor, surprising for an elementary school student, drew sighs from the audience. She expressed her gratitude to the parents and teachers and thanked the underclassmen. Then she said, I've been able to work hard all this time thanks to my father, who taught me the importance of learning, and my mother, who always believed in me and encouraged me. From the stage, Kinsley looked directly at me as she spoke. At the same time, a slightly sad expression crossed her face. But she quickly regained her composure and spoke powerfully to her fellow students. She concluded her speech by once again thanking the teachers and underclassmen. That night, Kinsley and I made a decision. Ever since Kinsley was born, Theo had caused us much pain, but today was the day I hated him the most. In my hand was Kinsley's phone. It contained photos she had taken since she was little. If Dad had come today, I was gonna delete them all, Kinsley said with a sad smile. I will not forgive Theo. He can insult and belittle me all he wants. But I wanted him to have consideration for Kinsley. Theo had treated young Kinsley harshly and imposed strict learning on her. Yet Kinsley, without complaint, had tried to meet Theo's expectations with sincerity, effort, and love, only to be completely betrayed. Theo, you are no longer my husband or Kinsley's father. You don't need to come back from Hawaii. I will never forgive you. The next morning, I was awakened by the sound of my phone ringing. Anticipating that a call might come around this time, I answered the phone, rubbing my sleepy eyes. The person on the other end of the line started talking without even waiting for me to identify myself. Hey. What's going on? My card isn't working. What did you do? Theo shouted. It was around 9 a.m. in Hawaii. I was amazed that he could yell so loudly so early in the morning. What are you talking about? I don't get it. How could I do anything to your card? I said, and Theo continued, clearly irritated. I tried to pay for breakfast, and the card didn't work. You must have done something. Just fix it now. So he was at a hotel or restaurant for breakfast, disturbing the other guests. What a troublesome man. I told you, I don't know anything about it. You know, even family members can't cancel someone else's card without a lot of paperwork. I wouldn't bother doing that. Oh, but speaking of cards, I said, pretending to suddenly remember. I was organizing things because of Kinsley's graduation and noticed a few old credit cards were missing. I figured they weren't being used, so I canceled them last night. I heard Theo gasp. Before he could say anything, I continued. When I contacted the card company, they said the cards were being used. And overseas. I'm glad I caught it in time. You know, even within a family, it's a crime to use someone else's credit card without permission, right? It was the right decision to cancel them. Theo didn't say anything. The mention of it being a crime probably scared him. I added the final blow. Why don't you contact the card company too? It's weird that your card suddenly stopped working, right? You'll need a card in Hawaii. Good luck. I hung up. Kinsley, awakened by the conversation, asked, Was that Dad? Yes, and he was panicking, just as I thought. It's his own fault, so don't feel sorry for him. Kinsley smiled a little and went back to sleep. 12 years ago, when Kinsley was born, Theo had taken paternity leave to go on an overseas trip. I remembered that he had taken my card without permission back then too. Theo claimed he had taken it by mistake because we kept our cards in the same place. I believed it was an honest mistake and didn't blame him at the time. When I found out Theo had gone to Hawaii, I checked for the cards right after the graduation ceremony. Sure enough, several of my cards were missing. We no longer kept our cards together. So there was no way it was a mistake. I canceled all the cards Theo had taken that same day. My main card was in my wallet, and the cards Theo took weren't being used, so canceling them was no problem. The only one inconvenienced was Theo, who had taken the cards without my permission. Theo said he was in Hawaii with his mother, but that was also a lie. On the way back from the graduation ceremony, I saw his mother cleaning the front yard of her house. I hope whoever went with him instead of his mother can help him out, but knowing Theo, he probably insisted on paying for everything to show off. But it's a waste of time to think about Theo any longer. Today, Kinsley and I have plans and need to save our energy. Makes him serve him right, I muttered and went back to sleep for a bit. Theo returned home looking a bit worn out about 3 weeks after Kinsley's graduation. Kinsley had started her new life in middle school. Theo, looking completely out of place in this fresh season, seemed to have barely made it back alive. Oh, welcome back. That was quicker than I expected. Maria, Theo started to say something but swallowed his words. He couldn't argue. If he did, it would mean admitting his own wrongdoing. Suppressing his emotions, Theo took off his tattered clothes and changed into the ones he brought from his room. So, how was Hawaii? I would have loved to go too. Your mom must have been thrilled, right? I'd love to go someday. Dad, isn't Hawaii a great place? I cheerfully spoke to Theo, and Kinsley chimed in. Theo, looking exhausted, replied, Oh, yeah. Mom didn't want to come back, so we stayed in Hawaii for a while, haha. Theo said with a forced smile. He was sticking to his story about being on vacation with his mother. But lies are always exposed eventually. But it's strange, isn't it? About a week ago, your mom came over and asked, Has Theo returned? I want my money back soon. I didn't understand what she meant, so I sent her away. Hearing this, Theo noticeably clicked his tongue. He must have been irritated that his mother didn't play along with his story. But that's not her fault. It's Theo's carelessness that's to blame. So your mom managed to send you some money, and you came back. It seems like you couldn't stay in a nice place with the cash you had. When Theo's mother came over, she vented about everything. Theo said he couldn't return from abroad because his card wasn't working, so I sent him all the money I had. I want it back soon. A return ticket? He apparently went without deciding on a return date. If he at least had a ticket, he could have come back. What a fool! I knew his mother didn't go with him to Hawaii, but not booking a return ticket was a grave mistake. Theo must have felt emboldened, thinking he could use my card since we were planning to divorce anyway. Theo, looking embarrassed, averted his eyes from us. Then he seemed to notice something. What the? Did the furniture decrease? Did you throw it away? It looks like you're moving. He turned to face us. Theo was right. We were moving. More accurately, we had already moved. Theo, let's get a divorce. You have a girlfriend, right? You don't need to worry about us. You should be with her. Here's the divorce papers. All it needs is your signature. I handed the completed divorce papers to Theo. He looked at them and then gave a defiant smile. If you know everything, this'll be quick. I was planning on getting a divorce anyway. Saves me the trouble. What? Are you hoping to live off alimony by blaming me for infidelity? Pathetic. You two can't survive without my income, can you? The world's not kind enough to let you live on a measly alimony. But if I can get rid of you with that little money, I'm all for it, Theo said as he signed the divorce papers. He had the nerve to say this after using my credit cards. After signing, Theo looked at us and took out his phone. He dialed a number and put the call on speaker so we could hear. Claire? I'm glad you got home safely. Hawaii was great. Like I said in Hawaii, let's get married. Yeah, I just signed the divorce papers, so it's all set. Really? You can get divorced? Thank you. You'll marry me and take over my dad's company, right? My dad's thrilled. I'll submit the marriage certificate we filled out in Hawaii as soon as the divorce is final. After ending the call, Theo looked at us with a smug expression. As you heard, Claire's father is the CEO of a company. He likes me and has named me the next CEO. Sorry for you too, but I've got a bright future ahead. Her family doesn't care about my infidelity. They judge me on my skills and character. This is my ability. Get it? Theo's face was suddenly full of confidence, a stark contrast to his earlier exhausted look. He was a simple man. Since Theo was being like this, we wouldn't hold back either. Well, good for you. Your abilities are recognized. I'll make sure to request alimony without hesitation. Since your girlfriend's father doesn't mind the infidelity, I'll send him a certified letter soon. Theo glared at me. He must think I'm a nasty wife. I didn't care, we were done. Then Kinsley showed Theo her graduation certificate and said, Dad, I became the class representative thanks to you. Thank you. Theo quickly replied, of course. It's because of my education. Kinsley smiled and said, Yes, thanks to your education. But it seems you're not very good at educating your mistress. She smiled and showed Theo the screen of her phone. It was a social media app, displaying Claire's account. Came to Hawaii with my boyfriend. He has a wife and kids, but I won't lose. It's true love. We'll definitely get married someday. My boyfriend proposed to me in Hawaii. It was so romantic at sunset. I hope he divorces his wife soon. Set him free. Claire had documented everything from Hawaii on social media. The comments section was filled with criticism of the affair, but she didn't seem to care. He extended our stay in Hawaii because he wanted to be with me longer. We stayed in a cheap hotel on purpose. It was cramped but fun. Apparently, Theo hadn't told her the card stopped working. Theo was always vain and proud. He looked at the explicit social media posts with a grim expression. But when he saw a particular post, his face turned pale. I have some happy news. He's divorcing his wife. He just called and said he signed the divorce papers. Finally, we can be happy. He's also set to take over my dad's company. Good luck, new CEO. Apparently, this was posted just a short while ago. Claire's post continued. Before, he asked me how much capital the company has. I didn't know, but I remembered what my dad said and told him, $10 million. He was happy about that. When I confirmed with my dad, he said, 10 million in debt. What's debt? But I was right about the 10 million. Theo was frozen, his eyes wide open. Looks like your mistress isn't too bright, Kinsley said, but Theo didn't seem to hear as he sank to his knees. What? 10 million, debt. No way. CEO, me, 10 million, my debt, he muttered, staring blankly. Kinsley had known about Theo's infidelity since she was little. Theo, thinking Kinsley didn't understand, often met other women in front of her. When Kinsley got a smartphone in elementary school, she began taking pictures of Theo's affairs. She thought that one day, the evidence might protect me, so she kept collecting it. After Kinsley's graduation, we looked for a new house and met a lawyer my father recommended. The evidence Kinsley had gathered was strong, and it was clear we could divorce Theo for his infidelity, so we waited for him to return from Hawaii. Kinsley also found Claire's account and looked into her father's company, learning about its financial troubles. Knowing Theo's ambition, he'd marry Claire to target her company after divorcing me. But Theo hadn't noticed the company's debt. Sorry to interrupt your shock, but we're leaving. I'll submit the divorce papers. Our lawyer will contact you, so please handle it. I said, carrying our things to the door. Ah! I heard Kinsley cry out. I turned to see Theo standing up, gripping Kinsley's arm tightly. We're still family, right? We haven't submitted the divorce papers yet. Let's start over. We should be together. I'll work hard at my current job and won't dream about becoming a CEO right away. You need me, right? So let's stay together. I forcibly pulled Kinsley away from Theo's grip. Don't be ridiculous. We don't need you anymore. You brought this on yourself, so deal with the $10 million debt or whatever. And if you think you can go back to your old company, you're wrong. Someone from your company saw Claire's social media. Your infidelity is all over the office. I showed Theo the comments under Claire's posts. Is this guy lying about taking leave for his daughter's graduation or entrance ceremony? I don't want to work overtime because of his affairs. He often looks down on female employees, but the women he chooses are idiots. Is it okay to post this? Theo began to shake as he read. There was no way he could return to his old job now. Maria, help me. I'm your husband. It's a wife's duty to help her husband. Obey me like before and help me. Theo grabbed my arm. His grip painfully strong. Stop it, Dad. Kinsley shouted, and Theo's grip loosened. I pulled away from him. Kinsley, you're talented, just like me. I made a mistake, but I'm not at fault. So. Theo reached out, but Kinsley pushed his hand away. Dad, do you know how much trouble and hardship you've caused Mom? How many times have you insulted her for no reason? You always demanded 100% from me. What happens when you make a mistake? You have to practice it 100 times, right? So apologize to Mom 100 times. Apologize 100 times for your mistakes. Theo collapsed to the floor under the weight of Kinsley's strong, straightforward words. Maria, I'm sorry. Kinsley, I'm sorry. Tears started to flow from Theo's eyes. 99 more times. Spend the rest of your life apologizing. We'll never see you again. You're not our dad or anything anymore. Goodbye. Leaving Theo in the living room, Kinsley and I walked out of the house. From behind, we could hear Theo's wailing cries. Without looking back, we headed toward our new home. I think online high school would be good. I can help with your work and still get my high school diploma. In her second year of middle school, Kinsley began talking about her plans for the future. Ideally, I wanted my brilliant daughter to go to college. However, Kinsley's determination was firm. I can go to college anytime. Right now, I want to help you with your work. That's my goal, she said cheerfully, heading to school. I started preparing for work at home. A year had passed since my divorce from Theo, and my work had been going smoothly. I received a lump sum for alimony and child support from Theo. This was to cut ties quickly. I never mentioned the credit card issue. The amount Theo used on my card was included in the alimony. It seems they actually got married. Claire boldly posted about it on social media. Claire didn't get along well with her mother-in-law, and she uploaded videos of their battles on social media. Despite the numerous negative comments about her, she seemed unbothered. Which, in a way, was admirable. Theo appeared in some photos, but he looked incredibly unhappy, which made me laugh. There were rumors that Claire's father, relieved to have handed over the company to Theo, had retired and moved to the countryside. I was curious to see how Theo would manage a company burdened with $10 billion in debt. It was like watching someone step into hell, but it was no longer my concern. Looking out the window, I saw Kinsley. She turned and waved at me with a smile. Despite the demanding days of forced studying, Kinsley had grown up to be genuinely kind-hearted. Meeting Kinsley was the only good thing that came from my marriage. I waved back with a smile. Kinsley, do your best. Relax, relax. Oh, Mom, you're more nervous than I am. Don't worry. I've done this before, and if I just do it like always, it'll go well, right? Today was Kinsley's middle school graduation. She had achieved outstanding grades and was chosen to deliver the graduation speech. No matter the circumstances, Kinsley never hesitated to put in the effort, and she was always my pride. The warm spring sunlight brightly illuminated her new beginning.